Hello there, I'm drinking tea that tastes like biscuits. It's wonderful. Anyway, welcome back to Overclock Showcase. Oh, oh. You might be able to hear the game in the background when I'm speaking. Hold on. That's okay, that's fine. I'll turn that down. Welcome back to Overclock Showcase. This week, we're covering, Turret EM Discharge. I almost forgot what it was. Yeah, so if you watched the end of the last episode, you would know we got to the Stubby, and we got a wonderful little unstable overclock known as Turret EM Discharge. I would say a fairly infamous one, but also a relatively liked one. It's not the same as Turret Arc, which is obviously now this microconductor add-on, which was definitely infamous and sort of maligned. And just over time, it's had like a lot of changes to it. Turret EM Discharge, I feel like, is a famous overclock in terms of the deep rock spheres. Like, this is a notable Stubby overclock. But it's always been pretty solid, and it's definitely had some controversial changes that I'll talk about. But for the most part, it is more of the platonic. In my opinion, it's more so the platonic ideal of turret-based overclocks. In fact, I understand why they kept Turret Arc as part of microconductor add-on, but microconductor add-on being a platform-based overclock is a far better idea than what Turret Arc was originally. So I'm much more of a fan of the platform aspect to this overclock, and I am also equally entirely happy and satisfied with the turret aspect that is this overclock. Turret EM Discharge. Shoot a turret to trigger a large electrical discharge. It has a lower damage output and a slightly lower magazine capacity. Neither of those things matter for what you're doing with this overclock. For one of the builds, we will be using the Stubby in a bit more of a way that you might not expect with Turret EM Discharge, which I think was important because you shoot a turret, it creates an explosion. That explosion is very, very efficient. It's assuming you're taking tier 1B, which you are, that is uniform across both these builds. You theoretically 1 in 2 chance to trigger the explosion every time you shoot a turret. If we go with 540 max ammo that we have down here, that is 270 triggers. That's 270 activations of this pretty powerful effect that one-shots grunts and two-shots a lot of weaker things like Max Terror Spawn and slashers, and just keeps pretty much infinite amount of enemies at bay. Of course, it revolves around your turrets. That is where the sort of price comes in. It's not something you get for free. You have to use your turrets to do this. So it's a lot of positioning involved. But my god, is it a powerful effect. So this is this first build is an extremely basic thing that builds the Stubby to be as efficient as possible in terms of both triggering the discharge and also supporting our secondary weapon. So we take the electrocution chance, we take fire rate. Fire rate is there to help us basically get there a little bit quicker. I've personally found I don't really need... I think magazine is actually a perfectly reasonable take, I think. But I find that base Stubby's accuracy is perfectly reasonable. It doesn't need much help. I do believe I've actually taken accuracy in the second build, but I think I can back that up when we get around to it. I found fire rate works well here, especially because we're going to be using this for armor breaking on occasion as well. Ammo in tier 3, just to really it is more than you need. You don't really need this much ammo, but it's nice to have. Yeah, like I said, armor breaking. This is there to really support our other weapons. So sometimes we will be shooting an enemy with the Stubby, both for the purpose of electrocuting them and also stripping their armor. We're not always going to be shooting the turrets to trigger the electrocution because, let's just jump to it, we're using hydrogen rupturing on our shard diffractor for electrocution-based damage bonus, right? We're not always getting that from the discharge. And then Turret Arc in tier 5, this just helps the Stubby be a bit of a sort of crowd-controlling tool by itself. So it really becomes an extremely efficient and multi-purpose weapon. You take this. I think Turret EM Discharge is genuinely a fantastic overclock. I'm not a master at it, but I personally also wouldn't say it should be changed in any way. I think it's very strong. I think it's definitely as strong as it needs to be, if not stronger. Anyway, our secondary here, like I said, is shard diffractor. Efficiency tweaks. This is what I find to be the best for general purpose single target damage, because we don't get the ridiculous sort of drawbacks and ammo limitations of overdrive booster. Horrible overclock. Haven't changed my tune on that when I really think about it. So efficiency tweaks is kind of what I land on. Not that automated beam controller, it is kind of just a legacy overclock. you're not really meant to use it. It's fine for single target, but I find it's always overkill, especially when you use the electrocution damage bonus. And I find that a little bit frustrating. So I find efficiency tweaks is a really good fallback. We get a little bit more ammo. We're going to be taking damage in tier 1 and weak point bonus in tier 2, just to really focus on direct damage. Charge speed in tier 3, this is not my usual MO. And I can't necessarily back this decision up in specific context of this build, but I've kind of just found that having the charge speed is actually very, very useful. It basically lets you, it just reduces the time between separate uses of the weapon, basically. You know, you start shooting, you stop, there's a small delay before you start firing again. This kind of suppresses that delay, makes it a little bit more forgiving. And I've actually found it to be very useful, and to not be missing the ammo that you get so much. It's only 50 ammo, which is not nothing. That's actually like a whole Praetorian, maybe even more than one. But if you're efficient enough, you're probably not going to be running out of ammo anyway, so it doesn't really make much of a difference. Tier 4, high intensity heating. Not that I think it's the be all end all of what you should use. I actually think Nitrogen Vaporizer has some standing, and like I feel like that's not the case for most people. I feel like most people do not care for this upgrade, and that's fine. But I think in the case of single target, I find high intensity heating makes the most sense. And we have armor breaking on our Stubby anyway. And of course, hydrogen rupturing. That was a given. Other things about the build are not really important. I will say I actually do use the Mark II turret on the second one, but Gemini in general is going to be better for turret unit discharge. Obviously, more so for microconductor add-on if you're using that for turret arc, obviously. You don't need but 2 turrets to activate EM discharge. You don't. But Gemini does allow for nice things, sort of being like, you know, it gives you a certain way to pace the placement of the turret and which one is up at what time and when you need a turret available for you to shoot to trigger the explosions. It does work quite well, but I'm not going to get into any more specifics about that. Let's just jump in. I've got an elimination lined up. I find eliminations actually are they existence of a weird spot as far as using turret and discharge. So there are going to be some weird aspects to this, but what it will give us is still a way to get quite a bit of free damage and electrocution on the Dreadnoughts. And especially in things like the Hive Guard fight is the one I'm looking for specifically. So let's hope for that, because it's particularly good in that fight. And that's kind of it, but also eliminations also give us pretty large pressure waves. Core Stone is actually something we will definitely do. And that's not just because I want the XP. Anyway, so what you need to do with this, and this is why this to me is the best argument for Gemini, is getting into the habit of constantly having a turret up, basically. That's the Gemini argument for me. You basically always want a turret active at any given time, and you want it, you know, placed somewhat mindfully of where enemies might show up. But as you can see, it's very easy to trigger, and that is because we've taken tier 1B, not tier 5, tier 1B. That upgrade is essential for this. You should not be using it without that upgrade. There's no point. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. Anyway. We'll deal with that properly later. I don't know where these swarms are coming from. But yeah, so there's been a lot of changes to Overclock. One of them being friendly fire. And in my opinion, that is the best change, certainly. As in, also Betsy. I don't mind a Betsy at all. That's pretty good. Yeah. But the best change to Overclock for me was that they removed the friendly fire aspect. It could damage you and other friendly players, right? Other dwarves. And that was really punishing, because I think the reason why they changed it is because they realised that this Overclock works best when you basically are within the radius. You place it down as sort of like a safety tool to quickly deal with, or at least disrupt, the horde of enemies that are surrounding you, right? Those are the circumstances in which I think it works. Its benefits are most obvious. It's just clearing out your surroundings, basically. Very clean B-Bomber kill there. Make sure I've got a turret set up. I do sense a group. Yep, okay, we've got some. Actually, I'm going to try and get both of them down here. Actually, it's probably not going to work. Alright, let's just start. Let's get going. Oh, that's a second B-Bomber. This is going to work well against something like a Stalker. And yeah, it does sort of incur a somewhat stationary playstyle. You're sort of dancing around this thing a lot, where you might want to be moving elsewhere, but I think it's powerful enough where we shouldn't be complaining about, you know, how it makes you feel. Feelings don't matter. They do, actually. Don't anyone tell you your feelings don't matter. Oh shit. Anyway. But yeah, so it used to deal friendly fire, which was just extremely punishing because we also have a range indicator now. This is basically the size of the explosion. Oh shit. What the fuck? But yeah, so that's the size of the actual explosion. And it's not massive. And in fact, for me, it honestly used to feel bigger. And by the way, it doesn't even... Actually, I need to look into this. Okay, so I got it. I kind of had a weird thought about how the electrocution actually works. It's pretty simple. It does 60 electric damage in an area in a 5-meter radius, and also applies electrocution. It's just obviously it has damage fall off, so enemies at the edge seem like they basically take no damage, but they at least still get electrocuted, which is a really sort of nice cover up for how some... Oh, I did not... How did I not notice that she was there? Fuck. Was I in that radius? Was I? Okay, I kind of got a little bit... Clearly I was not quite prepared. Betsy, I did not think that's where she was at all. That's weird. Oh well. I don't think she's going to be too much trouble. Although I would like her to use EM Discharge instead, but if I just need to kill her like this, that is fine. But yeah. So, it's only 60 damage, which means it's going to usually take multiple electrocution, at least 2 to kill even normal grunts. But that's fine. It's still so cheap, and also, if the circumstances are correct, you're hitting more than just normal grunts. You're hitting a lot of things at the same time with it. Okay. Betsy's kind of getting out of range. And yes, I will refrain from using Betsy in these Dreadnought fights, as usual. But yeah, that was definitely a surprise. But yeah, so, like I said also, it has a 5-meter radius, which basically means that's 10 meters across, which is, by the way, massive. It's a massive radius. You see, I was starting to get surrounded a little bit there, but because I got the turret up in time, it basically nullified the threat that was around me. Anyway, okay, so a shellback though. Shellbacks obviously have the very cool feature of being really weirdly difficult to electrocute. Didn't have any problems there. There's an element of Betsy, which is the sound being really fucking annoying. Well, I'm probably not going to do anything about that. I don't know, I really shouldn't use Betsy, so... Anyway, so we're going to get both our turrets down. Disparate locations. The main benefit here of the turrets is to help us sort of damage Dreadnought from any angle. I mean, we don't have to inherently be behind it to be damaging it. So it just sort of helps us along. If you're willing to play this part of the fight quite safe, it kind of helps things along, so you consistently getting damage through the Dreadnought, while not having to necessarily position yourself behind it. Obviously, you do want to be doing damage. You don't want to just be stuck doing whatever that is the entire time. But obviously, once you do get through, you have this shard diffractor built the way that it's built, and especially with the hydrogen rupturing, you get through the actual sort of weak phase of the Dreadnought very quickly, I find. Mate, just stop for a moment. Just stop. There we go. Not too hard. Right, but I need some sugar. Obviously, I think a resupply is valid in this room because we also have the core stone to deal with. Is there some sugar over there? Okay, it is. Good. But yeah, that Betsy really put me in the back foot there. So I've mostly recovered. I want to see how much Betsy's like triggering the audio. Okay, it's not even a noticeable peak, so it should be fine. I want to be careful about that. I actually have used ammo. I don't. Yeah. I'm not like full. I don't feel like I have a ridiculous amount of ammo necessarily. Alright, targeting discharge is going to kill this dreadnought. Watch. There we go. Good job, turret aim discharge. Yeah, so I've already kind of mentioned it. This isn't the exact circumstances that you... Well, it's not what the overclock is specialised for. It's specialised for really big groups of enemies. And obviously more so like point defence objectives. So things like escort duty and salvage operations. So this mission type is not exactly what you would go in for. But I think it's sort of an interesting exercise in taking an overclock that does, in my opinion, have fairly obvious biases, and showing that it's a fantastic overclock, whether it's in its biased environment or not. You know, like I don't think you have to use it. It's got specialization, but it's also just an S tier overclock anyway, so it doesn't have to be in its specialization to thrive. Which is something I respect. Anyway, just for my sake, I will actually prepare Betsy off for this core stone fight. Anyway. And I have found, obviously, we're not going to be like, I'm not going to be keeping this, I'm not going to be dragging this out, but I have found this to be quite effective against crawlers, core spawn crawlers. Yeah, but they actually are kind of kicking my ass now. Obviously, you know, I could easily finish them off with the Shark Diffractor. That's nothing it does. It also, Electric Arc is, like, the tier 5 upgrade on the Stubby is good for this, but the Overclock itself, what it's doing, is going to be electrocuting so many more enemies that you can just, that are just going to be lined up to just be obliterated by Shard Diffractor. That is absolutely an element of this that makes it really strong. This build specifically, I should say. Okay, let's go get Betsy. This is getting a bit ridiculous. But yeah, obviously, still demonstrating we have a very, very effective multi-purpose Stubby, though. Just there to strip armor and electrocute enemies and sort of stun. Not stun, but electrocute groups of enemies without turrets. And we have more than enough ammo to do both things. That's what I call a healthy combination. I swear to God, there's an Apoca Bloom inside Molly. I almost fused my cat's name with Molly. Which is Nelly, by the way. So I almost said Melly and Nolly. That's scary. That's not right. Hold on. There she is. I did actually just wake her up to bring her over here. I'm sorry. You've done that. Obviously, she's been featured before. She's been in stuff before. She's an old lady. She's 16 years old. I'd say she doesn't look it, but that's just me. Even something like a web splitter there, I could have easily used a Stubby on that and just not wasted any ammo. It's such an ammo efficient overclock, and I always love that. I do think there are examples of it that sort of could be sort of I am the last person to advocate for nerfs in a PvE game specifically, but I think if anything justifies it, it's these things. Obviously, I'd rather everything else be brought up, but I think there are some overclocks that bring where I think Ghost Ship have presumed that there is more of a penalty built into the mechanics that the overclock brings than there actually are. Like, they think that the fact that you're having to shoot your turret is more of a penalty than it actually is. I think another example would probably be something like maybe mine layer system, where it's like they think that's like a big penalty. Obviously, that brings penalties. It's like no guidance, less ammo, all these things, but it's so strong. Like, it's so much more powerful than the base weapon. Speaking of which, Hurricane next week, which I'm very excited about, because the Hurricane is the best weapon in the game, and I mean that. But that's not like I don't know if that almost sounded ironic or not. So I just need to improve the lighting a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if that sounded ironic in any way. It's not. I think it's my favorite weapon, and I also think it's the best weapon. Like, straight up. Let me turn the gain up a little bit. I mean, that's a little bit. Doesn't look particularly normal, but at least you can see me. That's what matters most. Anyway, now we push on. Oh, I just need to finish this tea. Actually, that's too cold to finish. Right. Okay, let's get to it. I'm coming, Dreadnoughts. I'm coming, Dreadnoughts. I don't know how they're getting out of my urethra, but I'm sorry. I didn't need to say that. That's not... Right. Ah, back here. Okay. That's pretty funny. Probably doesn't know what to do at all. Oh shit. Ooh, we got lots of stuff to do here.
This should get things started.
Oh, hold on, this is another scale bramble, isn't it? Yeah, this is going to be good for the double XP stuff. Actually, although I will say, I am not going to actually put this machine event on display. We're not going to gain anything out of me showing it. So I'm just going to go off screen. I'm going to do some off-screen mining. When I come back, I would have mined that error cube and done the ebonite mutation. Okay, hold up. There is something to talk about here. The fact is, I've already talked about how efficient this overclock is. And it does actually slow things down. So, okay, that's an obvious thing to say. I mean, it's still electrocuting these ebonite enemies and slowing them down, like, quite a lot. Which I think we can use to our advantage. Now we've got all these guys grouped up. Who told you overclocks don't matter during the ebonite mutation? Probably me, if anyone. I would have said that. Oh shit! Alright, there we go. Well, I think Bosco's been holding the area cube this entire time as well. Anyway, so I did just have a thought as well about the grenade. And I want to talk about the grenade because obviously shredders, they are really an omni tool. They're very overpowered. They can really handle anything. So it's almost a bit redundant of me to say this, but I do think they cover for specifically what you kind of lose with something like EM Discharge, because it's so position oriented and you kind of have to focus your combat around where you put your turrets more so than ever. And I think what shredders do is they kind of alleviate that element of the combat where it's like they will just go out and find enemies wherever they are and just thin out the herd so that there is much less pressure on the location that you're kind of forced to hold by virtue of the build that you're going in for, if that makes sense. Oh. Right, well I definitely want to try and EM Discharge these guys. Although the shredders are actually going to do a lot to them, by the way. Shredders are just crazy. But either way, combination of the two will handle this little horde of Praetorians and oppressors. Or, you know, the oppressor and his two bodyguards. Or henchmen. Or cronies, really. Goons. Or goons. This isn't the best. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I've already got my turrets up there. Let's just go back. Let's just go up to where the machine event was. But yeah, so the twins, not the best necessarily. Especially the lacerate, no, especially the arbalest, the opposite. Why do I just keep hitting things? Yeah, the arbalest, the chance of getting caught in our like turrets radius is very low, but we'll make the best of a bad situation, I suppose. Are they healing already? They are. Good for them. Whoa! Whoa! Actually worked well. That was not a bad thing at all. Actually, I'll set myself a little challenge here. Obviously, Betsy might end up doing it before this happens, but I kind of want to try and kill the Arbalest with turret EM Discharge, specifically. I have a couple ideas of how much that. Yeah, like I said, Betsy will probably do it before. Oh, fuck it. I mean, Bosco had got back in the fight as well. Oh dear. Oh well. All right, I'm gonna go to the next dreadnought. If it's a normal dreadnought, I will cut it. I think we've already done that. Hive Guard, I do want to show you, and I'm almost tempted because there was something I experienced while practicing for this, which is that this Overclock is strangely very, very strong against the Omen. So I might actually go through the rigmarole of finding an Omen just to show that off. Yeah, see, this kind of group, this is not, we don't really need the turrets for this. Found another barrage infector.
Stay clear of the explosive.
Oh, there's another one. Okay, but yeah, like I said, if this is a normal dreadnought, you won't be seeing that. Sorry! I think I kind of need to resupply first as well before I open that cocoon. Oh! Okay, and it's also a hive guard. What the hell? Is that a Betsy, like, bomb that just sort of went a bit awry? I think it was. I don't know where that lot came from. But yeah, so you're going to see some usefulness on the turret's part here. I guess something to be said, because obviously, look, using explosion to damage all the shields at the same time, that's pretty good. It's not loads of damage, but I think what should be said, turrets don't normally do anything during this phase, so at least we're getting some value out of them. Alright, but now we just get to go to town. In fact, I'm not going to use shredders during this fight, I think. I'm trying to avoid that. Yeah, obviously, the Sentinels are where the Overclock shines quite well. Just dealing with these little pansies. Just... these little bozos. I feel like I'm having an easier time hitting the turret than usual, despite the fact it's inside the hive guard. Okay, this is it, the final push. Leave me alone! Stop touching my willy! Okay. Okay. I'm the King Ron. Alright, now we leave. I've gotten really sick of wasting time in these missions. How long have we been here? 25 minutes, that's pretty good for basically a full-length elimination with quite a few extra things in it. Oh, Nelly, why are you facing away from me? Hey! He's not interested. Oh. Anyway. What we're looking like? Not too bad. Definitely a British visage outside my window. Not that I'm going to show you that.
Drop pod departing in T-minus 5 minutes.
Right, might have to... So, extraction is definitely something where the Overclock doesn't have much presence. It can if you're clever, but really I find extraction a bit of a walk in the park. If I get there really early, then there will be some usefulness on the part of the turrets, obviously, because it means we will have to set up and defend for at least some amount of time. So it looks like we are going to have to do that, so that's actually a good thing. So I'm going to put one sort of bit of a distance away there, and also one here to basically just keep the actual front of the drop pod clear. Let's hang around this one, actually, should be fun. So yeah, I think just by sheer efficiency, this is also a valid overclock to bring to something like Swarmageddon, which I think is a very difficult mutator to build for. But there you go. There's a very traditional build with turret discharge used in slightly less traditional circumstances. I think I might want to flip the script now and use the less traditional build in the more traditional circumstances. Pardon me. Excuse me. Because yeah, I kind of hinted at it before, but the second build, the Stubby, is a bit more of a in-use weapon. And the turret aim discharge is not necessarily secondary to it, but it more so informs the fact that both weapons in this build are going to be sort of dual roles and sort of overlapping with each other a little bit. In ways that are kind of odd. I think I've got something quite unique going on here. I could do the escort duty that I'm being prompted to do by my assignment. Or I could do this. Also, it's got low gravity, so it's kind of confounding. This lovely little salvage op. I think that's going to be a very fair showcase for this. But yeah, so the second build actually uses Spinning Death as our secondary. Which is an unexpected development, but I have found a lot of use in this, surprisingly. So, the Stubby, let's have a look at it. So I've got the electrocution chance in tier 1 as usual, that's necessary. Then I have recoil and damage and accuracy, and also conductive bullets. Basically, our Stubby here is going to be used obviously to trigger the explosion, obviously, but also to kill smaller enemies like acid spitters and even up to sort of things like menaces even. It's kind of our longer range weapon while also serving as a platform or a vessel for a more powerful AoE effect. The Breach Cutter is going to be more of a traditional AoE tool and also to handle really tanky single targets that are sort of easily accessible. So Praetorians and Oppressors and bigger stationary targets if we can get close to them as well, and also handling really big swarms of enemies. Both of them are really good at handling massive groups of enemies, which is why you get to sort of pick and choose which one you use for smaller groups or bigger groups sort of on the fly. I tend to sort of switch between the two to try and keep up my ammo distribution, like being fairly even, and that's where the lure comes in. The lure is actually a really important part of this, and I am glad that over time I've found more and more reasons to actually respect the lure. I kind of think the number of you carry being 4 is still a little bit low. I've always kind of thought that, and I don't think I'm going to stop thinking that. But I have continued to find more and more uses for them. I think you definitely gain a lot more from having what the lure does in this build than you do by just having more damage from something else, right? It just enhances the usefulness of both of these things so much. Part of that is also the Mark II turret. So yeah, we're using the Mark II turret. That is kind of to exemplify the more evenly distributed nature of the effect. The turret aim discharge is more just one of the components of this build rather than the complete focal component. And having it be surrounding one turret, I find is very useful because you can kind of like use it as a place for the lure to be. And I find that very useful, rather than thinking about 2 at the same time. So I think it's very useful in that sense, and I think salvage op. It's not. I should say this build. While it's not how I would traditionally build this overclock, it's not going to be bad at the things you'd expect turret aim discharge to be good at. It's going to be just pretty much just as good. Who knows? Also, we might get an omen in this mission. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah. Hello. Not interested. God, when is this coming out? I'm just thinking. I guess it's like mid-November, I think. yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about weird things like, oh, I wonder what's been revealed about Road Core. But I do imagine we probably have like a release date or something by now, or at least we, a bit more understanding of like when it might be coming out, whether it's actually this year or not. But I won't say anything else because, like I said, I'm sure something has been revealed, so I'm kind of just don't want to be filling the air that's already been filled, basically. So, what could I talk about that is like upcoming? I guess also what. Oh wow, both mules in the starting room. That's a little bit cheeky. Yeah, something that is happening, actually would have happened by now, is Halo World Championship. Okay, I gotta be. Yeah, I mean the thing is that would have already happened. We've already seen whatever they've announced. Here is me now saying that it is definitely that Combat Evolved remake. It is. It just is. It's so obvious, and I hope that basically I'm not tainting my image by saying this after the, World Championship, where it either has or hasn't been revealed. But it so clearly is that. It just, I don't know. What we can talk about is Season 6, and actually, we actually can. And I know it sounds stupid, but what I mean by we actually can is the fact that we are much closer to Season 6 than we are to Season 5, if you look sort of backwards, right? Which is kind of nuts to think about. I don't actually like thinking about it, but it's true. Season 5 came out in June 2024. It is now, as of this coming out even, November 2025. So that is a year and 5 months. And obviously there's still the general expectation that Season 6 will, or, Diffractor's next big update, whatever that is, if it's Season 6 or not, will come out, oh fuck, I still haven't got Born Ready on this, okay, will come out at roughly the same time, 2 years on from Season 5, right? It's like, okay, 2025 is the Road Core year, not that there won't be Road Core updates in 2026, there definitely will, obviously, I hope that's obvious, but Season 6, or, Diffractor's next update is also something that will happen in 2026. It only makes sense that it will sort of land roughly on the 2-year mark after Season 5. So, which means, as of this coming out, we're about 7 months away from the release of Diffractor's next big update. Yeah, like I keep saying, we still don't know for sure whether that is Season 6 or not. I am choosing to believe that it probably will be. I think they will be making Season 6, and I think they will be making it conscious of the fact that it could be Diffractor's last update. Now, I think they kind of took that approach with Season 5 anyway, to be honest. But not necessarily in the sense of, oh, this could be the last one, but at the same time, we're still making it so that we would be happy if it was. We don't have any reason to believe it will be, even though we know we'll be moving on to Road Core after this. Like, we know we'll be coming back to Diffractor. We should just at least make this so that we would be happy if it. Like, I would be happy. I think Diffractor is content complete, like genuinely. I think obviously there are clearly things that they kind of wish they might have done better, but I think at this point that really just comes down to the perk system, which I think still works. I think all of the good perks are good. I just think the system has a little bit some pitfalls, and I would say perks aren't like the best balanced things in the world. Anyway, let's get into some shenanigans here. So we'll let Spinning Death do its work first, and then we'll transition into Discharge. Which we didn't really need. It is a pretty deadly combination, but yeah, I just realised I really need Born Ready on this, and I kept meaning to change to it, and I just haven't, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, I think they will make Season 6, but I think they'll make it with basically the same approach as Season 5. So it's like, what can we do that is either hasn't been touched in a long time, or we feel like we need to give a fresh coat of paint to? And I think I have a good idea. As long as the next update is Season 6, I think I have a pretty good idea of what's going to be in it. Step 1 is a biome. Step 2 is secondary weapon overclocks, right? Okay, we're not going to press that just yet. We kind of need to have a look at what's in the next cave. Yeah, a new biome, and I think at the same time, I think the biome thing, I think it's somewhat possible for it to be more than one in this case, only because since seasons have started, we've got an industrial sabotage and deep scan. Is that... Hold on, it's called Deep Scan, right? I'm not forgetting what the mission's called. Okay, yeah. So I think getting 2 biomes isn't out of the question, and I do think they are I don't know this. This is a shot in the dark. I do think they are slightly less work than mission types. But obviously, you know, we'd want new biomes to be pretty thorough and like exciting to explore. But yeah, I think new biome, and I think secondary weapon overclocks is obvious, right? I think that Season 6 will have a pretty distinct theme, to be honest, from Season 5. But I still think it will be a follow-up in some ways. And it has to be... It really can't afford to be a follow-up in terms of theme because of the distance in terms of releases. But I think in terms of the other content, it can justify it quite easily, I think. Because when you get new primary weapon overclocks, you want there to, at some point within the tangible future, be new secondary weapon overclocks. So I think following up Season 5 in that sense is entirely reasonable and expected, to be honest. Right. Okay. Yes, I think that's going to happen if we get a new biome. I think we will get a new boss fight of some kind. I think we will very likely... I think in Diffractor's next big update, I think we will very likely get the basically final boss of the Glyphids. And that, I think, is entirely due to the fact that Rogue Core is moving away from Glyphids entirely. I think that the next Diffractor update will bring the basically capstone to the Glyphid family. And I think that will be in the form of a... I think it will be in the form of a Dreadnought that is kind of treated a little bit differently. I think it's going to be a Dreadnought that will both be part of Elimination, but also be a seasonal event. And I think it will be called a Dreadnought, but it will be called the Glyphid Dreadnought Matriarch. I think that is the direction we're going to be going in. Also, I need to lock in. Excuse me for a moment. Hold on, what the hell? Wait, hold on, was that also red sugar? Did I miss? Okay, it's fine. But I've accidentally directed boss code to mine something else. But no, you did get the sugar. Okay, but yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think there will be some kind of interaction with the perk system on Ghost Ship's End. I think that could be new perks, and I think it will be a slight retooling of how perk points are gained and allocated. Basically, I think they're going to... Whatever they do, I think they will add some new perks, especially based on Rogue Core, like a lot of them. And I think they will also basically retool the system to the extent that I think you will now acquire perks at their strongest form. I think they're going to remove the progression aspect from individual perks, basically, because I think that is the most sort of falling on deaf ears aspect of that system. You sort of get past it so quickly, you spend so much more time, that progression has no real weight. And who knows, they might add some more intricate meta progression kind of to the perks, that they sort of get like slightly stronger over time or something like that. You can invest into them. I don't know. They might even like change it so that, you know, you like have a point system like in COD of how you allocate perks, and you could potentially end up with more like maybe 3 active perks or like 5 passive perks instead, that kind of thing. I think that's probably the biggest stretch, though. I do think the perk system will be tampered with in some way. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it will happen around summer 2026. So you know, we're not that far off, and I still kind of have the issue of it shouldn't feel so crazy, like the idea of getting Diffractor content. But it is. Like, it's been a very long time, and they clearly have, you know, their focus is all in on Rogue Core at the moment, which makes them feel very distant from Diffractor. So it shouldn't be any surprise that it does kind of... The idea of getting another Diffractor update is a somewhat alien concept, because it's been so long, and at the moment they have no evident interest in changing that, you know? So I don't think it's unreasonable. Anyway, I guess I've kind of just been chugging along with this mission, but I hope you see how this is kind of like a quite neat little build that works, that sort of synergizes nicely.
Hang in there. Supply
It's like it's taking EM Discharge but not making it like the Stubby's sole existence, which I kind of like. Also, I'm literally glowing. I mean, I always am, but it's particularly noticeable right now.
all mules secured.
Yeah, I'm still really annoyed that I didn't equip Born Ready.
Establishing a proper
But yeah, in terms of what I want the most, though, from any kind of future updates to Deep Rock, I actually don't know if I have a really strong answer, to be honest. Because I think my favourite thing about the game, and I don't think this is probably not too much of a surprise, overclocks. I love overclocks. I love the effect they have on weapons. But I think when it comes down to it, this is greedy. It is greedy. But I think ultimately what I want the most is one more go around on the weapons. I think I do want one more set of weapons. I think it would be... It's a lot. It is a lot of work. It's a lot to ask. I think, but it is what I want the most, is one more go. And you know, they kind of did that to themselves, right? They did such a good job on the third generation of weapons. It's like, guys, do this again. And honestly, if like they are like even more than half of them are just rogue core weapons turned into Deep Rock weapons, completely fine. That is completely fine. Because they will still bring so much more depth to them just by virtue of them being Deep Rock weapons. Deep Rock weapons have so much depth to them in terms of upgrades and overclocks and all that stuff that it doesn't matter if like the models and base mechanics are all brought over from rogue core. Genuinely, I wouldn't complain. I think most people really would not mind that. It's just a very easy and exciting way, and also I think a nice thing as well for rogue core players potentially to see weapons that they're used to being brought over. But so we'll see. Also, this is actually kind of tricky, and I do genuinely blame my lack of Born Ready on some of my shortcomings here. It's pretty gnarly, to be honest. We are gnarly and grim. We are the frowning friends.
Stop the core stone. Lure is up. Wait, fire recharge.
What? Oh, I mean, I guess that was just a rogue core spawn that decided it wanted to attack me. Anyway, it can happen. It happens. It happens quite a lot, actually. Anyway, looks like double resupplies might be in order. Double dipping, which is not what I like doing necessarily, but I think it's going to be necessary. Yeah, I think I've said like pretty much what I have to say about that kind of thing, about Deep Rock's future. Okay, I apologise. I had no reason to fuck up like that. That was just me, just not. That was just me, just not trying. That was dumb. That was really dumb. So look how juicy what we like the enemy sort of all we had there was. It was just literally just grunts, just like 3 dozen grunts, and I just fucked it up for no reason. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I ruined it. I'm sorry.
Good job, team. R&D can't wait to get their hands on the core stone. Pulling it out now.
All right, let's get on with this. But yeah, I mean, I suppose while we're here, though, I could sort of give a very sort of quick outline of the kind of weapons I would want, I suppose. I always sort of come back to Gunner as like the guy who I think about the most, and I've always kind of wanted Gunner to have something that actually breaks his format of like how he holds his weapons. So I would really love to have him basically have. I like the idea of him having dual wield assault rifles, or maybe just dual wield LMGs, like actual proper LMGs. But he's he's such a unit that you can hold 2 at once. And you could call them Des and Troy if you wanted to. I would love that. But yeah, I think that would be really fun. And it would have a unique upgrade tree that does sort of treat the 2 weapons differently as well. I think that would be really interesting for Gunner to have something like that. But it's still very in keeping with his spirit. It's just a slightly different approach to the ergonomics, like how he handles his weapons. This is sort of like a different kind of thing. And if I can have a Gunner secondary, I think something more in the vein of a PGL would be cool. I think Gunner could easily justify having something like a like a 6-round grenade launcher as a secondary, and so that would be like handheld in sort of the medium weapon, how they hold rifles, like that stance. I think that could be really neat for gunner. So that's just like a really basic outline. Driller, I wouldn't inherently want them to go just automatically elemental, but I think the idea of the thunder gun, which is, you know, not electricity, that is the wind cannon from like COD Zombies. I think that is still kind of where a lot of people's hearts reside. Whether they can somehow figure out enemy ragdolls for that or not, I think is irrelevant. I think I still want it. So it's sort of to be like this wind tunnel cannon, this wind bazooka that, you know, just does. It's not even. It's more so about like how much area it covers and like stunning enemies as well. And then I think a secondary, I would really like Driller to get a rifle-shaped secondary as well. Which I don't know exactly what that would be, but I think like the idea of like a sort of Thorns launch. I don't know. I mean, a Thorns launcher, like it shoots like cactus spikes that sort of inflict bleed. I mean, that's definitely an idea that's been thrown around quite a lot, and I think it's a great idea. I think I'd love to see something like that. Engineer, I don't think I have particularly strong thoughts on a engineer primary. But I guess, you know, we have a shotgun, we have an SMG, we have an assault rifle. For some reason, the smart rifle is labelled as an SMG, but it's obviously not. I think if anyone would get a actual... No, actually, no, hold on. I'll save that. Also, that's a bulk detonator, for some reason. I don't know why that's showing up now. Where is it? Also, by the way, bulk detonator is not going to be an issue for us. I might reposition the turret for this. Actually, I'm just going to go and deal with this thing quite independently. The rest of the deal. I'm going to go over here, I think. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, what engineer? I think engineer should get a nail gun, basically. I guess that would kind of incur the sort of the bleed effect, but I think more so what it would do is like pin enemies. So very much so like the engineer from Bloons. Oh, there's 2 of them. That'll do it. Yeah, like a nail gun that sort of pins enemies, has like built-in like blow through, but it's obviously very kinetic, and also it's a blow through like pinning weapon, but it also has like a strong weak point focus. It's sort of be like a solid, like handheld, it sort of feel like a heavy SMG. It's kind of how I imagine it, like a very heavy SMG. Like it's almost like it's slow enough and heavy enough that it almost shouldn't be this shape. But it is because it's a nail gun. And in secondary, I mean... Oh yeah, I forgot how detonators worked. Engineer secondary, black hole launcher. I mean, it's a classic idea, but my god, is it what engineer deserves. It would be his lowest ammo weapon, like by quite a bit. I think it would literally start on like 5 or 6 ammo, but it would like launch, you know, singularities that draw enemies towards it and then just like, you know, nuke them, you know. Like, it could almost one-shot Praetorians on Hazard 5 without any upgrades. That kind of thing, but obviously with an ammo counter match. And because I think a weapon like that could have such interesting overclocks as well that tip the ammo economy in like a really strange direction. Yeah, and then Scout, well, I just hinted at it. Scout primary, I think Scout should finally get an actual hunting bow. Like a sort of like a really tech-based hunting bow as a primary. I mean, it'd be really cool because, you know, the crossbow, we already have it, of course. We have a crossbow. But what the actual bow can bring is, like, you know, actually drawing it back and using that and velocity and using that as like a very, like, inbuilt mechanic and what that can, like, come with. I think it would be really interesting, genuinely. And then Scout secondary, what's he got? He's got the crossbow, he's got the shotgun, he's got some twin SMGs. I think something heavier is in order. Something with a bit more heft. So possibly something like the field emitter or the Devastator pistol from Rogue Corps. It's like a pistol that shoots like a burst of explosive bullets. I think that definitely could also be a driller secondary or even an engineer primary, but I think the idea of Scout getting something like that, so like Scout getting like a hand cannon, I kind of like the idea of, or even a flintlock. Perhaps. Well, no, because that's a revolver. But him getting like a deagle, I think would be pretty funny, and not entirely out of character. Because he just whips out a deagle and just shoots a Glyphid in the face with it. I think that'd be funny as hell. Yeah, it's just like 2 cents on what some new weapons could be. But yeah, I think that is kind of my #1 desire before Deep Rock finally like truly sunsets, is another set of weapons. It's a lot of work. It's a shitload of work. But I think Deep Rock... Have you ever seen swarmers drop out the sky like that? What the hell? I think Deep Rock deserves... It's basically the thing it does best to be sort of like remixed once more, you know, renewed once more. I think weapons are what it does better than anything else. I think it does weapons better than almost every other game. It's such an incredibly deep and interesting weapon system that to give that one more like round would be incredible. Like, my desire for there to be new weapons is really born out like respect for how good they are, how great the weapon system is, how deep weapons are as individual like items in the game. But where's the turret? Where's the turret? There it is. So yeah, it's born out of respect. Obviously, it is now taken the form of greed, but it's born out of respect. I'd like to think. Alright, bye, fucks. I'm out of here. There you go. That was Turret EM Discharge. A brilliant Overclock S tier. I think I definitely tapped in. Obviously, I fucked up in some really obvious ways during that mission, but I think I really discovered something, at least for myself. It's a really fun and satisfying but unconventional way to use it. And then the first build for me, that is really just like prime. That is a really good template for like how you should use this weapon. Like, I think that is this Overclock. I think that's a really good starting point. I will always say you're free to experiment. You should feel free to experiment. But if you want a starting point, that first build is the way to go. It's a fantastic Overclock. I think what's so good about it is that it adds such an extreme mechanic, yet it doesn't lose the Stubby's identity at all, because the Stubby's identity is 50% SMG, 50% electric, and EM Discharge is just all about the electricity component. So I think it maintains the weapon's identity very well, really. I think it's it's fantastic. I genuinely don't think I would change it in any way. If anything, you could give it a slight ammo penalty. It's great. Really good Overclock. Love it. Highly recommended by me. That's it. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this and you want to stay on top of everything to Deep Rock and Roadcore, also make sure to click the bell. And as always, thank you to our one and only wonderful member, Scoot. And now, it's time to find out what next week's Overclock is going to be. Like I already said, it's going to be for the Hurricane. So, if you don't know how I do this, if you've seen this before, basically I number the Overclocks from left to right, top to bottom. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've already done 1, 2, and 5. Which leaves us with some options. I can't say... the ones I'd be least thrilled about would be OFM and... Actually, no, I shouldn't even say... Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'll take any of them. They're all fantastic. Let's go. Let's do it. So here's my Wheel of Fortune. And this will give us the number of the Overclock we're going to do. I guess Jet Fuel Homebrew is the kind of thing that I kind of don't need to do, if you know what I mean. Okay, that's going to be number 4, isn't it? Which is... Plasma Burster Missiles. Hold on. Plasma Bursters, which I think I might have equipped already somewhere. Oh, well, actually, I guess a lot of them are like leftovers from like when I was using Rocket Barrage. This guy I know is very often Plasma Bursters. But yeah, Plasma Bursters, that's a great one. It's a weird one for sure, though. That's going to be interesting to do. But that'll be next week. So until then, well, first of all, we're going to have our Turret EM Discharge themed drink. Which, I mean, what was last week? Because I think last week I had Smart Stout for some reason.
Let's play the ones, huh?
And that's also the one that makes the most sense for this, I feel like, as well. Let's have a look. Damn. Gut Wrecker. Why not?
Nothing clears a clog like a gut wrecker. Oh, I love that.
You boys better be better miners than you are.
I think Gut Wrecker immediately makes you tipsy as well. Pretty sure.
That's the stuff. Really much better. Rock solid.
See you next time.